The black belt's first kick split the air 3 inches from Mike Tyson's jaw. Tyson didn't flinch. He tilted his head half an inch to the left and let the wind brush past his cheek the way you'd let a fly pass without bothering to swat it. What happened in the next 4 minutes would become Catskill gym legend, a story whispered about for decades by trainers who saw it firsthand and fighters who wished they had. Let me take you back. It's 1987. Mike Tyson is 20 years old and already the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He's living upstate in the Catskill Mountains, training at the gym Cus D'Amato built, the place where legends didn't just get made, they got pressure tested. Tyson's day started at 4 in the morning. Road work, heavy bag, speed bag, sparring rounds that left professionals rethinking their career choices. Now, here's the thing about being the baddest man on the planet. People come looking for you, not just boxers, not just heavyweights. Everybody. Every tough guy in every discipline thinks he's got the answer to you. Karate guys, judo guys, guys who trained at a strip mall dojo for 6 months and figured they'd crack the code. Most of them never got through the door, but this one did. Get this. A guy walks into the Catskill gym on a Tuesday afternoon, clean white gi, black belt tied tight around his waist, broad shoulders, maybe 6'1" athletic build. He carried himself with the rigid posture of a man who'd spent years bowing before entering rooms and kneeling on hardwood floors. His name doesn't matter because after what happened, nobody remembered his name. They only remembered what Tyson did to him. He'd called ahead, told someone he was a third-degree black belt in a traditional martial art, trained in Okinawan karate with some background in Aikido. He said he wanted to test himself against a boxer, said it was academic, a learning experience. He said the word fun on the phone, and the guy who answered almost choked. Tyson was wrapping his hands when the black belt walked in. He looked up, scanned the man from belt to bare feet, and went back to rapping. Didn't say a word. Didn't stand up. Just pulled the cotton wrap tight between his knuckles and flexed his fist twice to test the tension. Kevin Rooney was working the corner that day. Rooney was Tyson's trainer after Cus passed, the man responsible for keeping the machine running and the gears sharp. He walked over to the black belt, looked him up and down, and said, "You sure about this?" The black belt nodded. "I've trained for 12 years, he said. "I've competed nationally. I believe boxing is limited to just 2 weapons, the fists. I have 8. Fists, elbows, knees, feet. I just want to see how it plays out." Rooney rubbed the back of his neck. He looked over at Tyson, who was shadowboxing now, throwing compact hooks that made a sound you could feel in your chest. Rooney turned back. "Headgear, 16-ounce gloves. You tap out, it's over." The black belt agreed. He slipped on a pair of open-finger sparring gloves instead of boxing gloves. Rooney didn't argue it. If the man wanted to keep his fingers free, that was his problem. Believe me, what follows is not a movie. There's no dramatic stare-down across the ring. There's no trash talk. There's just 2 men stepping into a roped square with very different ideas about what was going to happen next. Tyson moved to the center of the ring first. He didn't bounce. He didn't circle. He walked forward with his gloves up, chin tucked behind his left shoulder, eyes locked on the black belt's hips. Cus had taught him that. Don't watch the hands. Don't watch the feet. Watch the hips. The hips tell you everything a man is going to do before he does it. The black belt took a wide stance. Left foot forward, right foot angled back, hands open, and positioned at mid-chest height. It was a traditional fighting stance, disciplined and clean. In a dojo, against another karate practitioner, it would have been textbook. This was not a dojo. The black belt fired first. A quick front kick aimed at Tyson's midsection, designed to create distance and establish range. Tyson sidestepped it, didn't block it, didn't parry it. Just moved his torso 2 inches and let the foot sail past. The black belt reset and threw a combination. Jab with the lead hand, reverse punch to the body, low roundhouse kick to the thigh. It was fast, technically perfect, the kind of sequence that would score clean points at a tournament. Tyson slipped the jab by rolling his head. He caught the reverse punch on his right forearm. And the roundhouse kick? It landed, flush on Tyson's left thigh. Here's what nobody tells you. Tyson didn't even acknowledge it. His thigh absorbed the kick and his expression didn't change. Not a wince, not a shift in weight. Nothing. He ate a full-power roundhouse kick from a third-degree black belt the way a concrete wall absorbs a tennis ball. The black belt's eyes flickered, just for a fraction of a second. But in a fight, a fraction of a second is a confession. It said, "That was my best weapon, and it didn't work." Tyson saw it. And then Tyson moved forward. Now people talk about Tyson's power. They talk about the knockouts, they talk about the uppercuts, and the left hooks that separated men from their consciousness. But the thing that truly made Tyson different wasn't power, it was pressure. Tyson stepped forward with a jab, not a power shot, a rangefinder. It snapped the black belt's head back an inch and froze him in place. Before the black belt could reset his stance, Tyson was already inside, cutting off the angle, taking away the one thing a kicker needs most: space. I swear this happened. The black belt tried to pivot left. Tyson was already there. He tried to pivot right. Tyson cut him off again. Every escape route closed before it opened. Tyson wasn't just fighting this man, he was hurting him. The black belt threw an elbow, a short, sharp strike aimed at Tyson's temple. It was a move that didn't exist in boxing, a move that was supposed to be his secret advantage, his 8 weapons against 2. Tyson ducked it, not leaned away, not stepped back, ducked. His knees bent, his torso dropped 4 inches, and the elbow passed over his head close enough to ruffle his hair. And when Tyson came back up, he came up with a right hand to the body. The black belt folded, not fell, folded. His torso bent forward, his hands dropped to protect his ribs, and every bit of composure he'd carried through the door 15 minutes earlier left his body in one sharp exhale. Tyson stepped back, hands still up, chin still tucked, waiting. Rooney was leaning against the ropes, arms folded. 2 other boxers in the gym had stopped hitting bags. The room was dead silent. The black belt straightened up. His face had changed. The academic curiosity was gone. The confidence was gone. What was left was something more honest. Survival. Let me tell you something about Tyson that people forget. He was a student, not just of boxing, of fighting. Customato made him study every discipline. He knew what a karate stance looked like. He knew where the power came from in a roundhouse kick. He knew the angles of attack for judo throws and the distance needed for spinning techniques. And he knew how to take all of that away. The black belt came forward again. Give him credit. The man had courage. He threw a front snap kick aimed at Tyson's chin. Good technique, fast, committed. Tyson caught the kick, not grabbed the leg, not blocked it. He stepped into it, absorbed the impact on his chest, and trapped the foot between his elbow and his ribs. For 1 full second, the black belt stood on one leg with his other foot locked against Tyson's body, and Tyson just looked at him. Think about that. A 20-year-old kid with the power to put any man on the planet to sleep, and he's standing there holding this man's leg, looking at him, not punching, not hitting, just looking at him the way a teacher looks at a student who gave the wrong answer. Then Tyson shoved him backward. The black belt stumbled, caught himself on the ropes, and found his stance again. But his breathing had changed. It was higher in his chest, faster. The rhythm was breaking. Now here's the part that gets talked about. Tyson came forward, peekaboo style. Hands high, head moving side to side, that famous bob and weave that made him look less like a boxer and more like a wrecking ball with a targeting system. The black belt threw a spinning back fist, a desperation technique. Are you hearing me? 1 inch. Tyson pulled the punch. The black belt's head was already snapping backward from the phantom impact of wind and fear before he realized he hadn't actually been hit. The room held its breath. The black belt stood there with Tyson's fist hovering under his jaw. And in that frozen moment, both men knew the truth. That uppercut, thrown with full force, would have ended more than the sparring session. It would have ended the black belt's belief in everything he'd trained for. Tyson dropped his hands. He stepped back, rolled his neck once, looked at Rooney. Rooney gave a small nod. It was over. The black belt stood in the center of the ring for a long time. His hands were shaking, not from pain. He'd barely been touched. They were shaking because his nervous system had processed something his mind hadn't caught up to yet. He'd been completely outclassed, not by brute force, not by wild aggression, by precision, by angles, by a 20-year-old who could read attacks from disciplines he'd never formally trained in and shut them down before they fully developed. You know what? Here's the real truth about that day. It wasn't a humiliation. Tyson didn't make it one. That was the part that surprised everyone. The black belt pulled off his sparring gloves and climbed through the ropes. His face was flushed. His breathing was still ragged. He walked toward the bench where he'd left his gym bag, and halfway there he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Tyson. "You got a good kick," Tyson said. His voice was high and soft, which always caught people off guard. The voice never matched the violence. "That low roundhouse, you throw it different from most guys, more hip rotation." The black belt stared at him. "You notice that?" Tyson shrugged. "Cuss made me watch Masayama films. Full contact karate. Your technique is clean. Problem is, clean technique needs space, and I don't give space." Sit with that for a second. Mike Tyson, 20 years old, heavyweight champion of the world, standing in a sweaty gym in the Catskill Mountains, complimenting a man he'd just dismantled. Not gloating, not dismissing, breaking down the technical failure with the precision of a professor. That's the Mike Tyson people don't talk about enough. The brain behind the fists. Cus D'Amato didn't build a weapon. He built a fighting genius and then armed him with dynamite. The black belt sat down on the bench. Tyson sat next to him. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the black belt asked the question that everyone who'd ever faced Tyson wanted to ask. How do you move that fast at that size? Tyson leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I don't think about moving. I think about where you're going to be. Then I'm there first. The black belt nodded slowly. 12 years of training, national competitions, belt promotions, hundreds of hours of kata and kumite, and a 20-year-old kid from Brownsville had just given him the most important lesson of his fighting life. Anticipation beats reaction. Every time. And this is where I need to tell you what happened after, because the sparring session was 4 minutes. But the aftermath lasted years. The black belt drove home that night. According to people who knew him, he didn't talk about the experience for almost a week. He went to his dojo. He taught his classes. He ran his drills. But something was different. He started watching boxing footage, not casually, obsessively. He studied Tyson's fights frame by frame. He studied the peekaboo style, the way Tyson used head movement to create angles that didn't exist for flat-footed fighters. He studied the footwork, the way Tyson could cut off a ring in 3 steps when most heavyweights needed 6. And then he started changing his teaching. This matters. This is the part that makes the story more than just a tough guy anecdote. Within a year, the black belt had incorporated boxing fundamentals into his karate curriculum. Not replacing the karate, integrating with it. His students learned to slip punches. They learned to fight in the pocket instead of only at kicking range. They learned that a disciplined fighter without adaptability is just a disciplined target. Word of mouth says he told his advanced students one thing about the Tyson experience. He said, I walked in believing I had more weapons than him. I walked out understanding he only needed one, and he knew how to use it better than I knew how to use all of mine. Now hold on, that's the easy lesson. More weapons don't mean more effective. Everybody knows that. But the deeper lesson, the one that took the black belt years to fully absorb, was about pressure. In his dojo, the black belt controlled the distance. He chose when to engage and when to retreat. He set the tempo. He dictated the terms. And his opponents, trained in the same system, respected those terms. Tyson respected nothing. Tyson took the distance away. He took the tempo away. He took the air away. Every technique the black belt threw was technically correct. Launched from the wrong position, at the wrong time, under the wrong conditions. It was a masterclass not in punching, but in making another man fight your fight instead of his. Let me put it plainly. The black belt lost that sparring session before the first kick was thrown. He lost it the moment he agreed to fight in a boxing ring instead of an open floor. He lost it the moment he allowed Tyson to close distance. He lost it the moment he assumed his training would translate to an environment his training had never prepared him for. And Tyson knew all of that. Tyson probably knew it before the guy laced up his gloves. Here's something else. Tyson pulled that uppercut. Remember that. He could have knocked the black belt unconscious. He could have made a statement. He could have turned a sparring session into a highlight reel that would have followed this man for the rest of his life. He didn't. He pulled the punch, dropped his hands, and walked away. Because the point had been made. The question had been answered. And there was nothing left to prove. That's what real power looks like. It's not the punch you throw. It's the punch you don't have to. Kevin Rooney talked about this sparring session in a few interviews over the years. He described it as one of the most educational 4 minutes he ever witnessed in a gym. Not because of the skill gap, which was enormous, but because of how Tyson managed it. Mike could have hurt that guy badly, Rooney said. He chose not to. He showed the guy the difference without making him pay the full price. That's control. That's cussing him. And that's the part people miss about these crossover stories. Everybody wants to know who would win. Boxer or karate guy, wrestler or striker, grappler or brawler. The question is always about victory. But the answer Tyson gave that day wasn't about victory. It was about levels. There's a difference between winning a fight and showing someone they were never in one. Tyson showed this man, with patience and restraint, that the gap between a dedicated martial artist and a generational boxing talent wasn't a gap at all. It was a canyon, and the kindest thing he could do was let the man peek over the edge without pushing him in. If this story hit you the way it hit the people who were in that gym, you should subscribe. We tell stories about the moments that reveal who legends really are, not just what they did in the ring, but what they chose not to do when they had every reason to. The black belt went on to have a long career in martial arts. He taught for decades. He earned high-ranking certifications. He produced students who competed at national and international levels. He was, by every measure, a successful martial artist. But the people who trained under him in the later years noticed something. His advanced students didn't just kick and punch. They moved their heads. They worked angles. They pressured forward. They fought in ways that traditional karate students from other schools didn't. And if you asked him where he learned that, he'd get quiet, he'd look at the floor for a second, and then he'd say 5 words that told you everything. Tyson taught me that. No explanation needed.